Welcome on a Sunday night. I'm
Checking things out
Simone.
here. I'm Eddie.
Average Eddie is back. Well, are you feeling average today?
I'm at a median level, median Ed.
All right. I'm like a small chub, Simone, because
Okay.
yeah, the Texas game was rough. Listeners, in case you didn't know, we're both Longhorns. You watched the whole game, right?
I did. Yes. It was very frustrating, for sure.
Yeah. It seemed like it just felt like our coaching wasn't ideal, but it also wasn't in sync with the mindset of our quarterback, our general offensive strategy. Like maybe Sark was trying to do something in particular, but it wasn't translating to the field. It felt like the offense was taking the safe route or the conservative route whenever there were option plays wide receiver trees with options or RPOs or anything like that. It just felt like generally the offense was conservative, being a little bitch overall, and it doesn't help that it felt like Sark had some questionable calls, but overall it felt like we were a team, at least in the first half, that was seeing deer in the headlights, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first half score speaks for itself, right? And I definitely agree. Sark kind of had a rough night as far as play calling and game plan wise. And then the thing you say about deer in the headlights, I agree on the whole. Although really,
Offense.
just the offense, yeah, the defense they showed up. The
I
score really
know.
doesn't reflect how well our defense played.
It
Honestly,
really
I think
doesn't.
if anything, I feel much better about our defense after that game.
Yeah.
But no, on offense,
Yeah.
oh man, I two main things for me other than like the Sark play calling. Biggest thing easily is like Quinn. He's kind of a problem and not in a good way. He's a problem for our team. He seems like the same guy. I don't know how closely you followed the team every year, but his first year playing for us, there was a road game against Oklahoma State where he was just legitimately awful, missing throws by like yards and yards at a time, taking sacks where there really wasn't much pressure at all. And then the next year, I think we were like better. Or maybe it was the same year. We played TCU at home. It was like another hyped up game. Obviously not at this level of like top 5 matchup, but it was a big game because TCU was like doing great that year. They went on to get involved by Georgia in the Natty, and then we just kind of again stumbled over, didn't do anything on offense all night, and that's what this was. It was a classic Quinn performance in the worst way. So yeah, I guess I should stop my rant there. But essentially, Sark has some soul searching to do, I think, and specifically, he's got to ask himself: does Quinn have actually what it takes, not just physically but mentally, to like take this team to the playoff and actually win it? Because if not, then you got to roll with Arch, in my opinion. And that was a take that I had kind of been resisting for a while. I think quarterback changes are like not to be trifled with for the most part, but
Yeah. They're
Arch
not.
just looks right. It's a big decision, obviously, right? In terms
Affects
of
the
like,
team psyche when you make a
yes,
change like that.
of course. There's so many factors that it could impact that you may not even think about. But at the same time, if QB1 isn't getting it done, like it's obviously the most important position, and we have a great backup. So let's see what happens.
It was a panic move. It felt like a move Sark did at the end of the first half that said, I lost belief in my starter, but I can't explain why.
Yeah.
We just need to make the decision and roll with it, which is a problem if you can't explain the decision. I think after the game, my take is it might be it's time to roll with Arch because I felt like we got enough evidence now, especially in like the biggest game possible for Quinn, that his ceiling, we're pretty close to his ceiling. And I feel like with Arch, his ceiling has shown to be farther up than it is with Quinn, and maybe that's not what Sark was able to explain in the moment, but I think he has enough to see that and move on. It's just the timing of it couldn't have been worse, at least the way he did it, and then bringing him back in.
Yeah, that was weird. Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna bring Arch in, why not just roll with him, right? You're already down 3 touchdowns. I don't know. I don't think he's gonna bench him though. Like, even though I want him to,
Really?
I'm worried. Yeah, this is just kind of a guess, but
Yeah.
partly because he brought him back out there after a couple drives with Arch. I don't know. He's always backed Quinn, which is great. Like, I love that he's a player's coach, right? But yeah, I mean, Quinn last night, again, he was like rolling out of the pocket when he actually had some space in front of him to step up and deliver an actual confident throw. So he was either rolling right into sacks, or he was like tip tapping his way backwards out of fear of being hit, and then just like
happy feet.
right, throwing on his back foot, and it's not a good look. He looked so small in that game, and definitely lost himself a lot of money, I'm pretty sure.
He did. Yeah, his draft stock really fell. I think it fell the moment he got benched. I think that's enough. Even if he played the second half, like getting benched like that, what top draft prospect has that on their resume? I can't name one.
Right.
I mean, the only thing I can see as justification for a decision like that can be explained to prospective NFL coaches is the coach was trying to set an example for the team to say that, hey, if you're not playing well, I'm going to try to send a message and bench you, but this is just me saying that I expect more from you, and I'm going to put you back in, and just this is just a message to say that like nobody's safe. And that's the only thing I can really think of if I was a coach that would make sense to do. But still, it's a short-sighted decision even if that was the case.
It makes me think that when he did roll Arch out, he didn't really know if he was going to end up bringing Quinn back, and was probably hoping that Arch would light it up, right? Obviously, right? But yeah, the going back and forth is so weird. I can't remember the last time I saw that, to be honest. And I know Arch hasn't played much, and even when he has played, it's been against like low-level teams, right? But even so, he looks so freaking good when he does play, and he has like legitimate discussion around him already as a potential number 1 overall prospect in 2027. That's how good he is, and like how talented his arm and his body, frankly. Like Quinn, even if you're a Quinn truther, which that's a rough look if you are right now, but his trump card is his arm, right? But as far as being able to move and create plays outside the pocket, he's terrible. Yeah, he's so slow.
I think to give him some credit, he's done it before. I mean, there's a reason he got into the starting position. It's not that he's incapable of making those big plays, but he's shown time and time again, at least in big spots, that when the moment is big, he is not really able to come through with the same quality of plays when he's moving outside of the pocket or trying to make plays in general.
He did. You're right. I mean, he looked great against Michigan early in the season, where he actually did kind of like maneuver the pocket. But I don't know, man. That felt so different and like so long ago, and more and more that feels like it was an anomaly as far as his resume goes. Like against Oklahoma last week, we were killing him, but he didn't even look that good, you know?
No, he didn't. I mean, granted, it was his first game back.
That's true. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. Like I used to be a Quinn truther, like a big Quinn truther.
Oh, really?
Early in the season last year. Yeah. I was a believer. I think asking any of our friends, I may have touted him as good enough to take us to the championship. But I've made a change. I've changed my mind. But man, you know what? Like, even if Quinn is that bad, if you put Arch in there, and even if he's not like living up to the wild expectations he's inevitably going to have, man, if our coaching improves even a little bit, like we have one touchdown in that first half, it's a totally different game, right? Like our defense is capable of bringing us to the Final Four at the very least. They're that good, and we can't expect our defense to reduce the amount of points that they allowed. Granted that Georgia was playing on our side of the field for like 75% of the game. Like what our defense was able to do was remarkable considering the circumstances they were given.
Yes. The whole first half was played in Texas' half of the field.
Yeah.
It could have been like 30-0, 40-0 at halftime if Carson Beck actually showed up to play. And I guess he's also kind of overrated. We're railing on Quinn.
Oh God.
He doesn't look good
I was talking shit about him all game. I was like, ooh, he's done. Like his prospects might be over after that one. That was rough.
Right. It was a shit show of like early potential first round quarterbacks at least a few weeks ago, and now they both look kind of tough. So I was like more frustrated because it felt like Georgia was ready to lose, Yeah.
I mean, I guess they were really asking for it.
Right. He had a couple of interceptions. I think they were both first half. And we were like, stopping the run at least early on and getting some pressure. And then we just couldn't do anything on offense. And even if we had just like gone 3 and out every series in the first half, that would have also been a marked improvement over just giving them 30-yard fields. So next week we get Vanderbilt, who's actually kind of solid. I think they're ranked now, believe it or not.
They won this week.
They beat Bama.
Again.
Yeah. So whoever is at quarterback obviously needs to show up. It's kind of
best case scenario. We start Arch next week, and
I agree.
He plays, and best case scenario he plays, and then he plays in a really high pressure spot, which is against A&M on Thanksgiving. Like,
right?
If he can succeed in a pressure situation like that in a very important game for at least Texas, history, tradition, whatever you want to call it, then we got to roll with him for the rest of the season through the playoffs. But worst case scenario is we stick with Quinn and we get to the A&M game and he shits his pants again, and then we put Arch in again. That would be fucking really bad.
That feels dangerously realistic too. Is the thing.
Oh God, what have I done? I'm sorry, universe. I'm sorry, Texas.
They have a good defense too. Is what I'm saying. Like their D line is pretty strong. So I agree. Hopefully Arch gets some more run before then. Who knows what'll happen? But also I hope our safety Makuba is okay. I haven't heard anything about that.
No, dude, what a pick he had.
Williams.
God, yes. When he made that interception, right? I was like, dog, our defense showed up. Like they're about to go nuts this game, and they kind of did, but it's just obviously what happened.
We got some dudes back there, and on the D line.
Garrett! Oh my God! Okay, so time to move on to the.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah, you're like 10 seconds ahead of me.
We're watching the Jets and the Steelers, and Garrett Wilson had a ball hit him right in the breadbasket. And it popped right out of his hands.
Oh, no.
Right out of his hands, directly into the defender, Bishop. And Bishop takes it all the way to the 1-yard line.
That's nothing like him. Is he shook because Devontae took his job?
I don't think so. I mean,
that's
like we talked about in pre-production, like this offense has been fucking has been fantastic since Devontae has stepped on the field.
Yeah.
Now, granted, these mistakes inexcusable. Like Aaron had a couple had a pick that honestly it was just a great play. I mean, still an intercept, still a turnover, and then that was a bad play by Wilson.
All on Wilson.
He's gonna be kicking himself for that. Dude, how cool is it though that personally I'm a fan of the trade. I think weirdly I'm like kind of for the Jets.
This is a good transition.
I think they were talking about it on the broadcast. Wilson, he's always looked up to Devontae. That was his receiver that he looked up to for himself to improve while he was at Ohio State. And then usually, you find yourself who's on the ground there? That's not Wilson, is it?
No.
Okay, thank God. I mean, well, prayers. T's and P's for that guy. Yeah, and then it's just now Wilson, you get to play with your idol. Like that's really sick, and you can see like they have some footage of the Devontae and Wilson talking things through. You know, Devontae's teaching him things here and there, and then Devontae looks great, and it's cool to be able to play with somebody that's, you know, what is he, 31, something like
That feels
31,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
and he's
definitely on the
still
right
able
side
to
of
be
30.
one of the best. And then Wilson, like, now who are you going to cover? Like, fuck, it's going to be really, really hard for this offense to not succeed whenever you can't double Garrett. He's got all the space in the world, and then if they decide not to run, holy shit, Brees looks incredible. Like,
Yep.
it feels like there's so much more space in the field now, just with the effect of Devontae on the field. You know, it's incredible what kind of effect he's had so far.
I agree. Definitely rough timing after that play, but it's weird. They're still feeling like they're gonna lose though. But you're right. The offense does look nice, and they were already littered with talent. So adding Devontae is just gonna make them even better, presumably, which has played out
All
so
right.
far.
You tell me, is it worth it? A conditional third round pick. The Jets gave up, and and then they get Devontae Adams. So the Raiders get a conditional third, and it's conditional. It becomes a second if Adams is first or second team All Pro, and also it's an or statement if he is on the active roster for an AFC Championship game or Super Bowl, which I don't know why that wouldn't just be an and. But anyways, what do you think about that trade? That's quite a bit, right?
That's definitely expensive. I think it's fair value. I don't think anyone's losing. Honestly, while I agree with everything you said about the Jets offense, and I think Devontae's still great, I don't know if I would have paid that. But
Yeah.
that's mostly just because of his age and the fact that I don't really know if the Jets are like serious contenders. You know, if they were sitting here 4-2, then I'd feel a little bit differently. But if they lose tonight, they're 2-5, and they got issues, and now you're potentially losing a day 2 pick, or you are losing a day 2 pick. So,
I was just looking up. Okay, do you remember a guy named Devin Funchess?
that sounds very familiar, but I don't really know who that is.
All right, if you're a fantasy nerd like I am, I know you are too, but I've been playing fantasy football since 2004.
Longer than I have.
So there's a lot of players that come and go, right? And then there are some players that are like, you know, some sleepers occasionally. And Devin Funchess is a guy that played with the likes of Steve Smith, you know, when he was in his prime, and the guy that ate a lot of food, really big, turned into a tight end. Kelvin Benjamin.
Oh, he might know about it. Yeah, for the memes.
Anyways, so Devin Funchess, I just Googled him. He's 30 years old. You would think name like that is somebody from the 90s. He's younger than Devontae Adams. So just to give a little context into the trade, and then some more context, another player that was traded this week, Amari Cooper. All right, so Amari Cooper is also 30 years old. Good player, right? He was actually first in the league for air yards, cumulative for all targets. I mean, not completed, right? But that's just, you know, how often they were looking to him in Cleveland. So the Browns get a 2025 third and a 2026 seventh round pick. The Bills get Amari Cooper and a 2025 sixth round pick. So it's a straight up third and sixth for a Cooper and a sixth. So that's something. It's nice to get a trade, another wide receiver trade, to compare to the Devontae Adams trade and be like, okay, which one makes more sense? And it's still a little expensive for Cooper, but I would have taken the Cooper trade over the Devontae trade, right?
If you were acquiring a receiver, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
You'd rather have Cooper at that price?
Yeah, because at least I'm getting a little draft capital back, whereas Devontae, you're just giving it up completely.
That's fair. Actually, I think I would take Devontae at the more expensive guys. But I'm kind of a Cooper hater. So, but speaking of that trade, are you aware of like what Jerry Jones paid to acquire Cooper and then what he sold him for a few years ago?
No, I don't remember. Tell me.
I don't remember what year it was. I think it was 2019 ish. When we got Cooper, it was via trade, right? I think it was near the trade deadline. Doesn't matter. It was mid season or something. It was just a straight up first round pick. So
Okay, I have it in front of me. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
it was a first round pick, right? Can you confirm that?
2019 first round pick to the Oakland Raiders in exchange for Amari Cooper.
Yeah. So it's just straight up.
He was the fourth overall pick in the 2015 NFL draft, and he started his career with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. So they were paying for a player with a lot of potential. Jerry Jones was.
Yeah, understandable. At the time, it really wasn't a bad trade at all, and like he actually did go off with Cowboys for a couple of years, so that's fine. But then we sold him 3 years ago, right? I think that's right. Yeah. For I think it was a 5th round pick. So obviously his value is going to decline after a few years, but then for him to turn around and be traded again 3 years down the road for better draft capital than what we sold him for is yet another L that that Jerry has taken in the last couple of weeks. Just wanted to mention that part. Jerry's the best GM in sports. So in case you forgot.
Well, with the Amari Cooper trade, backup safety Rodney McLeod is the only Browns player, including the entire offense, to score more than one TD this season for the Browns.
A backup safety for the Browns?
Yeah. He has 2 touchdowns. Pick 6 and a blocked kick return TD.
Amazing. They should switch him to offense. Should we talk about the Browns? Or where did you want to go?
Love to. Yeah, let's jump right into that. Wait, before we do that. Oh yeah, I thought this was interesting. Okay, so did you know that Tom Brady is a minority owner of the Raiders now?
I did know that. Recently, right?
Yeah. All right, so he's also a Fox NFL broadcaster, right? And here are the rules. So there's like a conflict of interest with him being a broadcaster, but being a part of other teams' day-to-day operations. And I think this is fascinating. Like, he's still going to be a broadcaster. Like he did it today. He did the broadcast for the Chiefs and the Niners. So Brady's restrictions, he's not permitted to be in another team's facility. Okay. He's not permitted to witness practice. He's not permitted to attend broadcast production meetings, either in person or virtually. He's not allowed to be he can't even be told like what they're going to talk about at halftime during a production meeting. Like,
what? So is he just out there winging it now?
It feels like it, right? There's more. He's prohibited from publicly criticizing game officials or other clubs. He's subject to the NFL's gambling policy, obviously, and he's subject to NFL's anti-tampering policy.
That feels like a very thin line.
Right?
Oh, man. Yeah, Fox has to be pissed.
Yeah, and at least from the news, it looks like he's still going to carry out the contract. But man, I mean, they're just getting a shell of what they thought they were going to get with Tom. And with all that being said, I watched most of the Niners and Chiefs broadcast, and Tom was good, I guess. He was enjoyable. But anyways, any thoughts on that?
I agree. It's really amusing. I felt like even before he kind of went into this ownership stuff that he wasn't really wanting to criticize anyone anyway. He kept like talking around, bad, negative things, which is one of the reasons that I kind of didn't like him or don't really like him as a broadcaster. I mean, he's fine. Like, he's not the worst by any means. There's some really bad ones, but I don't know. Yeah, I'd rather Tom Brady has thoughts, right? We've seen him play and like really blow up on people. So I was hoping for more honesty from him, but maybe it was because he knew this was coming, I guess, which I guess
Yeah.
was smart for him. But yeah, if I was Fox, I'd be kind of livid, to be honest. Because what are you selling at that point if Brady's just going to show up and talk niceties without even being prepared? It sounds like. But I guess from a neutral perspective, it's also kind of great for us. Hopefully, there's a lawsuit that shows up one day.
Well, let's move on. Actually, before we move on, one last thing. This.
Oh, is that today? I missed it.
No. This was I think it was last Monday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oof.
Anyways, that's just I thought that was hilarious. Okay.
That's a good photo.
The Browns. So the Browns lose 21-15. No, 14.
14. Yeah, it felt like more, but yeah.
It felt like more because I mean the Bengals jumped out to a big lead and Burrow had a mid game, but yeah, the big news here is that Watson most likely tore his Achilles. I think he did it in I want to say the second quarter. Doesn't matter because as soon as Dorian Thompson came into this game, holy shit, was it a switch flip? I mean, in terms of decision making and going out and making plays, it was weird seeing. Yeah, it was just night and day. Now, granted, he was still suffering from a piss poor offensive line, but it was really interesting to see the Browns kind of look relatively competent as an offense. Now, granted, it was Dorian Thompson Robinson, so it's not like he's a world beater by any means, but generally speaking, I'm very happy to see, people move on from Watson.
Did you catch the stadium's reaction when it happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Myles Garrett and who was the other player?
Well, tell the audience what happened.
So, yeah, Watson goes down, non-contact in the backfield. I think it looked like he was about to tuck it and run, or he was, if nothing else, he was stepping him into the pocket. He was moving, and then you just see him collapse without ever touching anyone. So immediately, it's bad. And then once they did the slow motion replay, it was pretty clear that this is the back of his ankle. So likely Achilles tear, as you said. Anyway, I don't know if it was as it happened or as he was being carted off. I think it was closer when he was being carted off the field, right? He was in tears. He had the towel over his head. Classic end of season injury look. And then a sizable portion of the stadium, presumably Cleveland fans, because it was in Cleveland, they were cheering, which some players took exception to. Understandable. The players are always going to back their teammates. It makes sense. But I don't really blame the people who... Well, I guess I would never cheer on an injury, to be clear. It does blow, and I don't know. I guess that's all I'll say about that. But if you're familiar with Deshaun Watson, you can understand why some people aren't fans of him at all.
We're just gonna assume that the audience knows kind of what was going on with Deshaun Watson and the history there. But look, I want to say 99 out of 100 times I would say an injury. You never boo that. No one would ever want that kind of thing. Yeah, this is the one time out of 100 times where I'm not necessarily cheering them on, but I'm more like, all right, cool, we have an out. We can move on now. I'm not excited the way it happened, but I wasn't, gonna hold anyone back from their feelings on the situation. Yes, of course, booing an injury or whatever, cheering on an injury is bad. And generally speaking, you don't want to do that for any human being, but we're talking about a POS human being here. It's just a unique situation. I can't say I can remember one that was like this. I mean, maybe Antonio Brown, I guess, but I don't remember him getting hurt. Point is, for such a shit human being, for that kind of reception, I can't say I'm surprised.
Exactly.
you?
That's the best way to say it, is that it's not surprising.
Yeah. But
Yeah, maybe the Browns will be better. I'm kind of skeptical. I don't really think DTR is that good, but he is like an athlete. So
yeah. Holy shit,
Njoku
he
looked
booked
good.
it, man.
Yeah, he's
For like a
fast.
40-yard game. My goodness, he was fast.
Right.
It was
They should just
impressive.
change their offense.
He really did. Yeah.
Yeah. David
And
Njoku,
then
the tight end,
Chubb.
had like 10 catches. Chubb, he
Oh
looked pretty
yeah,
solid.
Joker went off. And then Chubb, yeah, he went
Yeah.
off. Like I started, of course, my phone started, listens and fucking watches everything I do.
Uh-huh.
So I started getting reels of Nick Chubb in the weight room post injury. And this dude is absolute monster. He's just like, he's a power cleaning 425 or something ridiculous and squatting on a bendy bar like 615. Just outrageous stuff. And I'm like, oh man, Chubb is back. Well, okay. Now, granted, I did see a lot, right? He wasn't. I don't know. I need more data points. Like he scored. That was cool.
Yeah. I don't want to get carried away. He
Yeah.
was not the Nick Chubb of old, and I really don't think he will be. Maybe if he was 3 years younger, he'd get back to that point. But the fact that he was like playing solidly, like we said, it's a win for the Browns. He kind of looked more or less like Kareem Hunt, with the Chiefs.
Oh, I have an opinion on that. Put a pin on
do
that.
you?
But
Maybe
yeah, it's different.
Oh,
okay.
Actually,
Nick Chubb is 28 years old. Just wanted to put that out there.
Oh, really? I thought he was like 30.
He also has my birthday, December 27th. Fun fact.
Very fun.
Anyways, 28, and that's what he looks like after a devastating knee injury. Still remarkable in the sense, like we talked about it already. The fact that he can come back is still awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Is that Mike Williams getting catch?
I think so. I didn't expect to see him.
Interesting. Anyways, yeah, so the Browns have a nice little silver lining of Nick Chubb coming back, and that kind of thing will uplift a team. And then, you get something that is really distracting, and Deshaun Watson's off-field stuff, that's also going to be no longer a factor. Hey, man, Cleveland's defense is still good. And, all it takes is a few Ravens losses, like, Tampa Bay, they come out and beat the Ravens tomorrow. It's not time to write off the Browns yet. So I just see a few stars aligning is all. Not all of them, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I can't go that far. Their division is a nightmare, isn't it? I mean, Pittsburgh has to potentially get to 5-2 here. Baltimore still just has the one loss. They play tomorrow, and then Cincinnati finally, it looks like they maybe are putting it together. They're 3-4 now. Yeah, you don't want to get too excited, but
yeah,
they're still a threat anytime you play them because they got Burrow and Chase.
Yep.
So maybe if they were in another division, I would be willing to hear that. But you're right that like their defense is pretty solid still, and they have one of the better defensive coordinators in the league. I mean, I love what's his face. I forgot his name. The DC. Do you know his name off the top of your head?
No, I don't.
I know his face. Oh, Jim Schwartz. He's a really good coach. And of course, they have the best defensive player in the league. So they're going to be a tough out, as the Bengals showed. But
yeah,
no, I think their offensive problems are still going to be too much to overcome.
I don't know, man. I mean, well, that's not true. I mean, Russ, he's inconsistent this game. It's also his first game back. For the viewers, Russell Wilson has made his first start this season against the Jets at home, against the Jets. And he's had a few good throws here and there, but, man, he's short-arming a lot of throws too. He's just looking a little iffy. Oh, my gosh.
He is, but I thought he looked worse. And yeah,
it's true. He's looked a little bit better than expected.
JJ Watt still looks amazing. Sorry, TJ Watt.
All right, can we talk about my dumb team?
Let's do it. Stupid team.
We
on a
lose
stupid
Thursday night. Yeah, dude. Fucking Thursday night games.
This
We
is an
play
awful game.
Spencer Rattler, and he wasn't terrible, but he wasn't good. But he's still someone I would prefer to have over Carr.
Really?
But yeah. Yeah. So the over-under, I just want to point out a couple things. Over-under for this game was 37. And the Saints are coming home after a tough loss against Tampa Bay over ACL weekend. And you would think that they would put up a bigger fight, but man, I think it's crazy to me like what Vegas knows, because they must have known that the Saints were going to come out and just show no effort, because boy were they were just pathetic. Like the Saints came out, just did not give a shit. Like defensively, it really felt like Rattler was the only guy. Like he got his a shot and he's like going out there and going balls to the wall. Meanwhile, everybody else on the Saints was like, man, I don't give a shit about this game. Like it's Thursday night. I didn't get half the amount of rest I usually get, and it was just a bad look. And I really hope it's enough to fire Dennis Allen.
It's getting there. It's got to be getting there. How could it not? Assuming there's no miraculous turnaround, which I don't think will happen. I really regret complimenting your team on that first pod after they were like 2-0. But they had just destroyed my team, so that was why. Dude, the defense is atrocious. Oh my god.
It turned atrocious. They were good.
Yeah, I know they've had like
I thought that was going to at least stay relatively the same, but no.
Yeah,
no.
It's bad. They are like afraid to tackle, and they dropped like 2 interceptions. Like Bo Nix still didn't look that good in my opinion.
No,
at least as a quarterback. Yeah, but they were not like they were unable to capitalize on his shitty throws, and they just didn't want to tackle.
So that game got out of hand in the first half, right? It was like 25-0, something stupid. And I couldn't help but notice, I like to look at these random stats, right? There were 7.5 million viewers watching Game 5 of the NLDS on Fox, which was airing at the same time.
I should have watched that instead.
Dude, for a garbage NFL game like that, 9.5 million people were watching that game, the Thursday night game. And that is a season low for the NFL on all broadcasts.
Sheesh.
Just to give you a perspective of how much the NFL owns of viewership, sports viewership.
They own all of it, right? It feels like. Yeah. It's annoying because it disincentivizes the league to like improve as a product. And you can feel the difference truly between not even just Thursday, although Thursday is like the worst example for sure. Well, I guess the NFL Network international games are also quite bad. So just compare those 2 broadcasts to like Collinsworth and Tirico here on Sunday night. I mean, this broadcast, it's like memeable, right? Because Collinsworth is like such a homer for like every team ever, but he's really good. They're both really good, and like the broadcast is just A+ all around. But then Amazon and NFL Network and sometimes even Fox is like just unbearable,
Right.
It's frustrating. And I realize obviously the primetime games generally will get better matchups and better teams, but it's not true as a rule. So I wish they would just do away with Thursday. We both already talked about that on a previous episode, but it'll never happen.
Well, you bring up the international games as a different broadcast, different type of product, I should say. I actually watched most of that game this morning. Patriots.
Okay, I didn't
Jags.
actually, yeah.
Man, I couldn't help but notice the amount of Jags fans there were in the stands. I think they were playing in the Hotspur Stadium.
Oh, that's your
But
team.
dude, it there's not as many, fans like in a typical Texas A&M Kyle Field game. Like they've got over 100,000 people. I think they have like 60, 70,000 people watching this international game. But boy, like the way that the camera was kind of panning over to the audience, like there are some like heavy Jaguars fans, like the kind of thing that you would see in an American game. And it just got me thinking about like what would it look like if we had a division out in Europe? Is that even possible? Because in terms
a
of
whole division?
logistics, because I think, dude, this is, total shot in the dark. It just feels like you get the feeling that there's a huge fan base out in Europe that the NFL wants to tap into, but they know that logistically it's very difficult to pull something like that off in the same league. And it just, I don't know. I feel like maybe there's a way to make that happen. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm pausing because I'm really not sure what I think. I love the idea of it on paper for sure. I think it'd be like if it was a video game, right? It'd be so cool if you could create franchises, a whole division in like Europe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But obviously, like you said, the logistics make it kind of feels like impossible. And it's not just like the travel and the costs and all that. That's a big part of it for sure. But to be honest, I think player sentiment and like coaching sentiment would kind of go down. I mean, understandably, like if you're a team that is like fighting for a wild card spot and then you got to go to like, I don't know, Liverpool or some shit and play like a 2-14 British team. I don't know. It just feels like something the players would be really unhappy with, the American players, which I guess that's all there is right now, obviously. But I could see some NFL Player Association holdouts or like lockout potentially. At least right now. I mean, obviously the NFL is slowly trying to push that gap as far as it can, and it's kind of doing a good job. If those numbers are based on the numbers you just showed, I don't know. I don't really trust that we're anywhere close to actually getting a team from there. But hey, the Jaguars have been to England like 4 or 5 years in a row. I'm not sure how long it's been. But that's interesting. I mean, I think it's kind of cool that the British fans are like starting to feel like some ownership of the Jags because America doesn't want them.
Okay. Here's my half-baked idea based on that comment right there. Why don't we just send the teams that are hurricane vulnerable?
Oh,
like,
nice.
Let's just move teams. Like the Tampa Bay, pretty decent. Let's give them a good team. And let's just if we're going to make a division, let's give them teams that already kind of like struggle during hurricane season. And then you give them, I don't know, just throw names out there. Tampa Bay, you give them New Orleans, you give them Jacksonville, and you give them Miami.
You can't give them New Orleans. The city would riot. I don't know about Miami, but New Orleans.
But again, half-baked idea. I'm just thinking out loud, like logistically. You can't just making a team is also obviously an option too, but you'd have to make two at least in order for the division divide up work.
Hey, I think it would be cool as fuck for sure. I don't know.
Anyways, that was fun thought experiment.
Yeah.
So Jacksonville wins. It was a blowout. It was a shit game. If Jacksonville had lost, there's no doubt in my mind Peterson gets fired, right?
Like tomorrow.
Yeah, by the end of the day.
That's reasonable.
Before their flight back home.
Yeah. They just keep.
And then New England is bad. I said England. Freudian sleep. That's funny. So for fantasy people, you know who looked good? Tank Bigsby. That dude is good.
Yeah, he went off.
Yeah, he did. He really did.
Is he better than Etienne?
He's playing like it.
Etienne's had a bad season from what I've seen.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. So the Seahawks played the Falcons today. And the Seahawks, I mean, you go down their injury list, it's like 75% defensive players. And they absolutely put on a defensive clinic against the Falcons, which I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't understand how that works. Like the Atlanta Falcons offense is pretty decent, but this is not a result I would have thought. The Falcons were favored by almost 3 points, and the Seahawks go in there and beat them 34-14 with 2 defensive touchdowns.
Dude, Kirk was not in his game today. He was missing everything. Is
that what it was? Was a bad day by Kirk?
Well, not just Kirk, but he was probably the first one I'd blame. Followed by like their coordinator, Zach Robinson. Because I really didn't get the feeling that Seattle was like shutting them down at all. It was weird because, especially early in the game, Bijan was just running it down their throat. He was getting whatever he wanted.
Yeah, Bijan looked really good.
He did. It was like one of his better performances. And I think he's had nothing but good ones. But it felt like they were simultaneously abandoning the run while also kind of like losing steam over the course of the game, like their O-line. They were, because early in the game, they were opening up freaking Moses level blocks or whatever.
Yeah.
Those were closing, but at the same time, I don't know, they started just throwing on every down. It felt like too early, like when they were still tied or down by like 1 score. And then also, yeah, Cousins missed at least 2 or 3 throws that were wide open. It was a bad day all around for them. And I just can't get a read on them now because you're right. Like they've had games where they look unstoppable, like the whole offense.
Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird game. The score throughout the day, I was just like, what is happening? Like why? How did we find ourselves here? Maybe we should give credit to Kenneth Walker. He was a monster too.
Yeah, he looked great.
Like a ground game like that, man, it's hard to beat. Eddie, I want to play a game with you. Let's play games. All right. This game, we're going to have you guess. I'm going to give you stat lines, and then I want you to guess who the players are on for each of these stat lines.
For this week?
All right. For the first 6 games of the year.
Oh, all right.
All right.
Damn, that's hard. Okay.
Now, you'll see what I mean. All right.
Okay.
I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to put the stats on the screen, and I'm also going to say them out loud for our audience. Entire screen.
Jets are fucked, by the way. They're down 2
They just scored again?
Pittsburgh did, yeah.
How did they score?
They just drove down the field.
Who scored?
So the Jets had their field goal attempt blocked. This was like 10 or 20 minutes ago. And then on the ensuing possession, Pittsburgh just methodically drove it down, and it's now 30-15. All right, I'm looking at your screen.
All right. First part of the game is quarterbacks. So tell me which of these stat lines are which quarterbacks, and I'm going to give you the options here shortly. Gotcha. First off, in order, quarterback rating, pass yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and completion percentage. All right. Your options are Geno Smith and Dak Prescott.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
All right. First stat line. QB rating 85.5, pass yards 1602, 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 63.4 completion percentage. Second stat line, 87, 1,778 pass yards, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 68.9 completion percentage. Which one is Dak and which one is Geno Smith?
All right, you intentionally made this hard because these are really similar stat lines. But I guess that's your point, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Dak as option A, which is the one with more touchdowns. They both have 6 picks.
Okay, that is correct.
Right?
Dak is the top stat line. He has a QB rating of 85.5, 1,602 yards, 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And Geno Smith is the NFL leader in passing yards, and he only has 6 touchdowns, and he has the same amount of interceptions as Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I knew they were both pick heavy so far, but I also knew that Dak was like having a couple of good fantasy weeks.
All right, next one. Good stuff. Good guess.
Thank you. Give me Geno in real life.
Ooh.
I'm like half
I'm
kidding,
not surprised you said that.
But yeah, I'm not really kidding that much. Okay, next one.
Next one, QB. Last QB question. First stat line, QB rating of 105.3, 1,330 pass yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, completion percentage of 71.1%. Second stat line, 107.1 QB rating, 1,404 pass yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, completion percentage of 75.3%. One of them is Jared Goff, and one of them is Jaden Daniels.
Oh. Give me Goff as the 8 touchdown, 4 interception quarterback.
Nice. That's correct. Making it look easy. Goff has a very similar QB rating to Daniels, but has thrown 8 touchdowns and 4 picks, whereas Daniels only has 2 picks this season, which is interesting. Well done.
I love Daniels.
Okay. We're moving on to running backs. Keeping it short and sweet.
We got to talk about that later.
What's that?
Daniels got hurt.
Oh, yeah.
I hope he's okay. Well, yeah.
Okay. In order for running backs, attempts, yards, average, long, we don't care about that. I probably won't even say that. And then touchdowns. All right, the first stat line, 86 attempts, 485 yards, average of 5.6 and 2 touchdowns. Second stat line, 81 attempts, 438 yards, 5.4 average, and 3 touchdowns. One of them is Chuba Hubbard, and one of them is J.K. Dobbins.
Okay. I think Chuba has more touchdowns, so give me Chuba for 3 touchdowns. Dobbins for 2 touchdowns.
That is incorrect. Chuba is,
Chuba.
I think he's third on the list for yards overall and only has 2 touchdowns and has an average of 5.6. And then Dobbins is like 10th or 11th, and he's got 3 touchdowns and 438 yards. Still both running really well with a high average.
That has to be wrong because I swear when I played Chuba Hubbard, he had like 6 touchdowns against me. So we'll have to reach out.
Chuba's good, man. He deserves credit. He's solid.
But that team is so bad.
All right. Next one. Running backs. All right. This one's over 5 games. They both had a bye week. Stat line number 1, 73 attempts, 325 yards, 4.5 average, and 5 touchdowns. Second stat line, 78 attempts, 339 yards, 4.3 average, 3 touchdowns. One of them is Brian Robinson, and one of them is Tony Pollard.
Oh, yeah. Brian Robinson has more touchdowns for sure. I own him in all three of my
Got
leagues.
him again. It is incorrect.
Wait, what?
Tony
What?
Pollard. Tony Pollard has averaged a touchdown every game and has
Are you
325 yards. Yep. And Brian Robinson has more yards, but only 3 touchdowns.
I feel like the Titans don't have that many touchdowns, but okay. That's shocking me.
It's because all the touchdowns they've had this season
They've all gone to Pollard?
Pollard.
Wow.
You know damn well that fucking Calvin Ridley ain't getting them.
True.
All right. Speaking of receivers, moving on to receivers. You're 2 for 4. Congratulations. I didn't write down like the definitions, but I'll just tell it to you. Okay, first one, it goes by receptions, targets, yards, yards per reception, and touchdowns. Okay.
Yeah.
Receptions, targets, yards per reception, and touchdowns. First stat line: 25 receptions, 36 targets, 404 yards, and 3 touchdowns. 25 receptions, 40 targets, 424 yards, and 3 touchdowns. One of them is Brian Thomas Jr. and one of them is Juwan Jennings.
This is extremely similar. Oof. Surely Brian Thomas has more targets, I would think. So give me.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I would have said. That's good logic. That's correct. Brian Thomas is the one with the more targets.
Yeah, I know Jennings had that 1 week where he like blew up.
Yep. There you go.
That was it.
And that's why they have similar stat lines.
Yep.
When it's funny because you look at Brian Thomas and you're like, that dude is locked in for 5 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown every game.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He is really good. He's going to continue getting better too. Okay, next one. Correct. 3 for 5. I don't know why it's like formatted that way.
You got to use LaTeX, bro.
Get out of here. All right. All right. First stat line: 33 catches, 48 targets, 400 yards, 1 touchdown. Second stat line: 37 catches, 46 targets, 384 yards, 1 touchdown. One of them is Zay Flowers. One of them is Brock Bowers.
It's hard. I think Bowers has more targets.
I like your thinking, but that's incorrect. Okay. Zay Flowers is the first stat line. He's got more targets. And Brock Bowers has more catches but less targets.
Okay.
But I threw this one in there because what Brock Bowers is doing this year is incredible. And he's a rookie.
Yeah, he's the Sam Laporta this year. Laporta has been like kind of ghosting. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah,
Lions have too many weapons.
Well, that's all for offense. Well done. You were 3 for 6, 50%. And I threw a bonus one in here. Okay, it's defense.
All right.
Just for shits and giggles.
Dang, I'm only batting 50%. It's embarrassing.
All right. Stat lines. Tackles, sacks, tackle for losses. Okay. First stat line. 19 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 42 tackles for 9 tackle for losses.
Oh.
Ignore ignore the 42.
Who has that?
Ignore the third number. I don't know why it's
gotcha.
Okay, and then the second stat line. Well, let me repeat the first one. 19 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 9 tackle for losses. Second stat line. 25 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 8 tackle for losses. This is through 6 games. And one of the options is TJ Watt, and one of them is Will Anderson Jr.
Okay. I mean, I believe either way, right? So, I'm gonna just try to play some or use some sportsmanship here. I think you're trying to just trick me at this point. So I think Will Anderson has more tackles.
You think that Will Anderson has more tackles?
Well,
Is that
okay,
it?
so I would have
Final answer?
if I wasn't playing this game, I would have guessed that TJ Watt has more tackles. But because I'm playing the game, I think Will Anderson is the option with more tackles.
You're thinking too hard about it. That's incorrect.
God. Okay.
Will Anderson is 19 tackles and 5.5 sacks. And TJ Watt has more tackles, but only 4.5 sacks.
Yeah, I should have just narrowed in on sacks. Yeah, okay. Because if
NFL
I
leader
would
in
use
sacks is Aiden Hutchinson.
oh, rest in peace. Yeah. Yeah, Will Anderson is damn good.
Yep. You know who else is good? Who got another sack this game and has now become the NFL leader in sacks? I think we just missed it. Will McDonald for the Jets.
Oh yes,
Having
yes.
an incredible season. He just got his 8th sack. Took the lead.
That's insane. I was not aware he was having.
Yeah, he's
that
a
good
monster.
season.
That defense in general. I mean, they're giving a shit hand. Almost they're giving the University of Texas hand and getting some terrible ball field placement. But they've been playing well this season. All right. Thanks for playing my game.
I'm sorry that I couldn't win.
You know what? I never defined winning, and the fact that you got more than 0, you know, I think you deserve a pat on the back. I'm gonna give it to myself because I don't know. I can't do that for you, so
I accept that.
I'm glad.
I'll pat myself on the back.
Let's move on. All right, so we've already talked about the Browns. Okay, so did you watch the Texans play the Packers? That was a fun game.
Yeah, that was one of the better ones.
Joe fucking Mixon, dude.
Oh yeah.
The dude's a monster. And talk about a game-changing player. You know?
He's so fun to watch, man. And he'll get up
is.
and immediately start talking shit to the defense. It's great. I love that.
He heard our RB rankings and was like, I'm offended. And
I know.
He went out and balled the fuck out. I thought he was the best running back. He was better than Saquon. I know he had different opportunities, totally different game script. Right?
Yeah.
But man, Joe, he looked fantastic. He made a case today for sure. And then the defense for Houston was also electric. And of course, Houston loses with a game-winning field goal for the brand new kicker on the Packers, Brandon McManus.
Yeah, I felt like for most of the game, the Texans could only really move the ball if they were just giving the ball to Mixon, which is so weird in 2024. Yep. Like, you have no hope if you're dropping back to pass with CJ Stroud back there. You just got to hand it off. But that's the way it was. I guess it was a combination of the Packers defense is kind of Swiss cheese down the middle, but like actually has a solid pass rush. So it makes sense.
They really
sort of.
shut it off.
Yeah, but you're right. Mixon, he's legit, man. And I feel bad that we both left him off. He definitely does not have the physical traits that some of these other elite running backs have, like not even close. So he had a couple breakaway plays where if he was like a speedster, maybe he scores, but no, what makes him so good is like he's slippery as fuck. He's
elusive.
Yes, he just knows where to go with the ball, and he'll make you miss in the phone booth, which is really valuable on almost every down. So, it was a great game.
28 years old, same age as Nick Chubb. But man, I mean, we got to talk about CJ. What a bad game. He was bad.
Sophomore slump at this point, I think it's safe to say.
You think the regression was inevitable? He's
not
a bad quarterback, right?
No. I'm not sounding the alarm by any means, but if you think about his rookie year, he probably benefited from the fact that, number one, he was a rookie, so we were already going to like be impressed by any good he did, but also the fact that he was the second pick behind the like unanimous generational QB that was Bryce Young, and the fact that the Texans were so bad. But honestly, the Texans did have like some nice pieces on the roster. It wasn't just CJ Stroud that fueled that turnaround. He definitely was like the cherry on top for sure. But
Yeah.
I think he obviously has plenty of room to improve, and I think he will. Like from what we've seen, even this year, he's had a few big time throws where it's like, yeah, not many quarterbacks can actually deliver on that. But yes, if you own it in fantasy, you're definitely disappointed if you were hoping for last year.
I'm disappointed in Tank Dell. He had a great game last week, and
Mm-hmm.
Tank Dell had a complete goose egg, and there's no Nico Collins on the field. 0 for 4, just nothing. What's going on with him, dude?
I don't know. That's also that one I can't explain at all. Because I like him a lot. I was saying he's better than
Now,
Diggs, but maybe not.
I kind of felt that way too, but all right, game script is important for this situation. CJ Stroud went 10 for 21, so 10 total catches in the game, right? Mixon caught a couple, Diggs caught a few. So there's not a whole lot of opportunities to go around in a game like that. And then CJ only, he threw for 82 yards, right? Like with that little production, it does make sense number wise that Tank Dell wouldn't be getting anything, but yeah, talent wise and the best friends X factor, that's I'm
Showing
just
up on
that
Sundays.
whole goose egg is still surprising. And
Yeah.
if you're a fantasy owner of him, do you consider dropping him after a game like that?
Oh man. In redraft leagues, I would definitely consider it. Really just comes down to what's on the wire in your league, who's available for you. In Dynasty, I still wouldn't. I mean, Diggs probably has no more than like 1 or 2 years left, and I do think Tank Dell's going to ultimately find his role and get back to some level of consistency. And actually, like Nico being out might honestly be hurting him as much as it is giving him opportunity.
Yeah,
Because it
that's
feels
true.
like without
I mean,
Nico,
look at the Garrett Wilson situation, right?
right? Yeah, exactly. The offense is just not the same without Nico.
Yeah, that's a big thing that needs to be considered. Would you, let's say Romeo Doubs was on the waiver wire, would you drop Tank Dell for Romeo Doubs?
I think I would.
He looked great today. He was 8 for 10,
he did.
97 yards. He's the go-to target for Love.
Yeah. Dobbs is good. I was really disappointed in whatever that drama was from the other week.
Yeah.
I still think Tank Dell, maybe not this season, but just as a player, has more like big play potential than a guy like Dobbs. Dobbs is a really reliable, like short game and intermediate game weapon. He's not really burning you deep, Whereas Tank feels like he could take the top off. Maybe
Big
I'm
play
just
potential.
reminiscing from last year, but yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's a tough decision for some fantasy owners. And so the Green Bay Packers barely get a win there, but they're a little careless with the football. I'm not sure how much we learned about them today, but Packers, they come away with a win against a very good team and a very, very good defense, arguably one of the best defenses in the league, and they deserve that at least that credit. So they needed that win to show that they're contenders, and I think they've at least shown that they will be as the season progresses. Right?
They're just a good team. They're not great in any one area, but they're good at everything. It feels like.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. So another great game in the 12 o'clock time slot. Lions at the Vikings. Vikings looking to become 6-0 for the first time since like the 70s. And they were coming off a bye, 2.5-point favorites against the Lions, who just came off obliterating the Cowboys. So a spot like that, you would think they're overrated. They're going to come into Minnesota thinking they're going to beat them and get, surprised by a very good Minnesota team. And that is not what happened. They actually came off destroying the Vikings, and they needed a game-winning field goal to beat them eventually. But, man, Lions shut me up. I've actually bet against the Lions stupidly. I had an average weekend betting this week, but
You're on the average pod.
oh yeah, it's perfect, right? Yeah, so the Lions cover and get the win, and it felt like a blowout. It felt like the score was closer than it actually was. If it wasn't for like a very late scoop and score by Minnesota, I don't think the Vikings really had a chance. What did you see?
I actually didn't see much of this game, unfortunately, even though it was like on paper, it was probably the best matchup. But I did tune in for the last 5 minutes. I came in right after that scoop and score. But it just overall, you know how I feel about the Lions. I mean, even if they had lost today, it wouldn't have changed my mind that they're the best team in the NFC right now. And that's for like all the reasons. Their players, their coaches, their scheme, their trenches, the skill players, on and on and on. It's insane. And my belief that like Minnesota will cool down at some point.
So George Pickens comes out publicly and bashes Amon-Ra St. Brown with a blindside comment that Amon-Ra St. Brown is a system player and is a slot merchant. Do you believe you're shaking your head? Do you believe that Amon-Ra St. Brown is a system guy and does not deserve as much credit as he's getting? George Pickens, come on, man.
If he's a system guy, then I want that system. I don't know what's up with Georgie. He's
crazy. He's having a good night. He's like the next coming of Antonio Brown or something.
Literally, yeah. He's on the Steelers too.
I like how Amon-Ra Brown has a statement game this game. He had like 10 catches, 100 yards, a couple tutties. Now it's maybe one tutty. Point is, like, that's not correct. He's a fantastic receiver.
He really is, yeah.
So, yeah. Not true at all, but that was more to say that George Pickens likes to say shit that is just off the wall crazy.
He's a weird dude.
Anything else from this game?
I wish I had more to add, but I do not.
I wish I knew who they were playing next, but they're both 5-1 now. And my opinion is that Darnold is coming back down to earth a little bit. He's not playing as well. He's not bad, but this may not be a Super Bowl team. They are a playoff team, but I think the Lions are a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, that's where I stand.
All right, next game, the revenge game, Eagles at the Giants. There's a lot of talk about Saquon, before the season and Hard Knocks, and this was his chance to go out and make John Mara lose sleep at night, the owner of the Giants.
Because he said that, yeah.
Yeah, man, and did Saquon? He went fucking off. 17 carries, almost 180 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns.
You could tell he
was running with anger. It was fun to watch. Now, the Eagles destroyed them 28-3. I actually think the biggest thing that I saw is Daniel Jones is finally fucking benched.
Did he get benched?
Riddance. He got benched.
Okay. Because I was watching, and then I like kind of stopped. I had it on my TV, but I wasn't really paying attention because it was game over. And then I look up and I see Drew Lock, but I had assumed that it was just because it was like garbage time. Is that not what happened?
No, he got benched early on. Also, the game was out of hand early on, so I feel like it was a little bit of both. The Eagles just they were just more talented, actually. I didn't feel like schematically the Eagles were, but man, they just have talent all over the field. AJ Brown scored again, and Jalen Hurts, he looks very good, like athletically.
He is good, yeah. He's not the best pocket passer, but he's like he's the best of the guys who, I don't know, can't really beat you with their arm.
Right.
Whatever that group is, he's at the top for me.
So I think I see now what you were saying the past 2 weeks. with the weak schedule like this, I now agree that with their talent alone, it's going to get them to the playoffs with their weak schedule. So I get that. I still think they're going to lose some surprising games to bad teams, but ultimately it's so weak and their talent is so much better than everybody else's. They're going to get there.
Yeah.
Just kind of annoying.
It is annoying. Feels like that's who they've been for like 5 years.
All right, next game. Raiders at Rams. There's not a whole lot here. The Raiders are terrible. Brock Bowers is awesome. He's kind of
the
in a
Rams
weird
are terrible,
situation. He was fantastic. I watched way too much of this game.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So the Rams did not have Cooper Kupp, but they get a win, and kind of an important win for them because they're now still in the mix. Because with San Francisco losing, Seattle is the top, right? The NFC West.
4-3, I think.
So it's kind of open. Like all it takes is a Seattle loss and another San Francisco loss, and the Rams are back in it. So they needed this win to get them back in contention for a playoff spot. And I'm never going to rule out Sean McVay. I know you're not either. So that's
true.
That's the biggest thing to come out of this game is they're not a terrible team, but they have a lot of talent. I still think their line's going to cause them issues, and their defense is ho-hum, but they're still in the mix to make a difference.
They play Minnesota next week. I don't know why I know that, but I do.
Ooh.
Yeah, right? It feels like they kind of have to win again if they're really going to stay in the race. And it feels like a game where Minnesota could just go on a losing streak. It's like a trap game for them.
I wonder what the line's going to be.
Yeah, right?
I'm going to guess – this is interesting. It's a Sunday night pod. I'm going to guess the line's going to be Minnesota playing the Rams. Minnesota by 4.5.
That's a great guess. I'll say – I also don't know if it's in Minnesota or LA somehow, even though I know that that's the matchup. You kind of stole my guess, but I'll say Minnesota by 3.5.
3.5. All right. We'll put that on record and see who is closer to right. Okay, one last thing before we move on. O'Connell, Aiden O'Connell. There's this interesting stat. The man is committed to the pocket. Aiden O'Connell has not attempted a single scramble rush on any of his 442 dropbacks since entering the NFL. He's the only QB in the stats era to not record a single scramble rush attempt on any dropback, minimum of 150 dropbacks. That's wild.
That is wild. Is he just scared to
That
get
is a
hit?
crazy stat. And he broke his thumb today. So that stat will live on.
Good job, Aiden. Maybe he just wanted that for the history books.
He's chasing that stat.
Can't hate on that, yeah.
That'd be hilarious. Oh,
he's gonna live forever.
Damn, Jets are gonna lose.
Yeah.
Next game, Panthers at Commanders. Not much here either. Panthers are terrible.
Daniels
Andy
got
Dalton
hurt.
threw a couple pick sixes. Commanders, big thing here. They lose Jaden Daniels. Did you see anything else about the injury? Some wrist injury or something?
I've not seen anything since the game ended. I didn't even see anything happen really. I just saw he was like kind of shaken up, but it wasn't like a big hit or anything. I don't think.
No.
So hopefully he's
I think
fine.
it was him just kind of falling over awkwardly on his wrist.
Yeah. I hope he's all right.
Yeah. And that injury happened in the first quarter, and then Marcus Mariota still comes in and puts up another 20 points, and they obliterate them 40-7 or something.
Yeah, dude. Canales might actually not even last the season. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, that's true considering the owner.
Right. The owner's insane.
Yeah, he's known to make rash decisions with coaching, not give them enough time. So that'd be interesting to see. Okay. A game I finally wanted to talk about. Chiefs at Niners. Last undefeated teams remains undefeated. They beat the Niners. And The score says it's closer than it actually was. I think
Yeah.
they beat them handedly. The Chiefs did.
They did. Yeah.
And it was a
Niners looked
defensive
bad.
effort. It was a weird game, in my opinion, because you look at Mahomes' stat line and he throws 2 picks again and has no passing touchdowns. No, he throws 1 pick, sorry. So now he has more interceptions than touchdowns this season.
I think he
But
did
he
throw
had a
2.
good
Doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, he had a good game. Is that weird to say?
It's not because it's Mahomes, because we kind of expect this at this point from him.
Okay.
He was fine. I don't know. If it just feels like the Chiefs are an anomaly too, in the way you want to be, where they know how to win, like no matter what happens. I still think Mahomes is having maybe his worst season of his career.
Statistically, for sure.
Well, statistically for sure, but I also mean just from the eye test, he's missing throws, he's missing reads, which is not like him. And yet, yeah, they're 7-0. So, and their defense is as good as it's ever been. Obviously, it's kind of
that's
last
the
year.
thing. They're a defensive team, and they really showed it. They gave Purdy. They really shut down any MVP talks for Purdy. He was not good. Well, he wasn't terrible, but the defense showed how good they were against a good quarterback, and it just goes to show that that team might make it. And honestly, that's all they really need, because I'm still confident that when they get there, when they get to the playoffs, it's going to activate Mahomes mode, and then the league is fucked. And they're going to get healthier too, right?
I would assume so, but I don't think they're getting Rice back, right? Maybe Pacheco?
Yeah, maybe Pacheco.
That'd be a big question, obviously.
You know what, dude? All right. I alluded to it earlier. Kareem Hunt is so good. I know. Just hear me out. You're chuckling. The dog, he's been consistently good for a long time. When he was first in Kansas City, right? Do you remember how sought after he was in fantasy?
Yeah,
that was for good reason. I mean,
yeah,
I remember when he was first for good, when he was sophomore, 3rd year in the league, he was touted as one of the best running backs in the league. And ever since he became good, I've been a huge Kareem Hunt fan. He had a few off the field incidents that made it difficult to like him, but the reason I like him is because he reminds me a lot of Kamara. His balance is elite. He is unbelievable. When he gets hit, he has this uncanny ability to continue moving forward and just bounce off tackles. He showed it in this game. He looked like the old Kareem Hunt. I thought he looked fantastic. And if that's the running back that Kansas City is going to get, look out. Mahomes doesn't have to do a whole lot when you have a running game like this.
Yeah. I hear you. I think I'm being a little unfair in my skepticism, but I don't know. I guess
it's not just you, dude. A lot of people do that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, their O-line is so good. It's probably the only O-line in the league that you can maybe talk about being on the same level as Detroit. I still don't think it's quite that good, but it's up there. I mean, especially in the run game. Holy shit, they just move people and they make it look easy. So yeah, I guess I take away some of Hunt's credit, but you're right that he is always moving forward. That's the best way to put it. Kind of like what I was saying about Mixon. He's also slippery in that way.
Yeah.
He's a little bit bigger and slower, but he just knows how to play the position basically, and that's really all Andy Reid needs.
Kareem Hunt, how old do you think he is?
I think he's 29.
Nailed it. He's 29.
Nice. The Jets lost and went final. Dang.
Okay, another thing that's worth noting. The Niners lost Brandon Ayuk in this game, Debo, and Juwan Jennings all in the first half. So Brock did not play his best game, but come on, man. He's playing with some guys I've never heard of.
Yep.
So and still no CMC. So this team, they really need to get healthy. They're 3-4 now.
Ayuk is probably done for the year. Did you read about that?
Did you see the injury?
I didn't see it, no. But I read that it was likely or feared to be ACL, which is usually
it sure looks like it.
Okay.
It looks bad.
And I know Debo reportedly got sick in warmups, that's obviously a lie. He's been sick probably. He was like with the oxygen masks on the sideline in the first quarter, and then they obviously pulled the plug.
Yeah.
Man, I can't imagine being a Niners fan, to be honest. It's like I'm no fan of that franchise, but that's so frustrating. Just as a football fan, that sucks.
Yeah. But you got to be happy about Ricky Pearsall, the guy that got shot.
Oh yeah, that's cool. He's kind of good too. I think. He's not ready to be like leading the team to Super Bowl, but I think
first round receiver, dude. I mean, might be time for some targets.
He's got to grow up fast.
And then so last game. Anything else on this game?
Not really. Niners might be in trouble. We'll see.
Last game. Well, I don't have a whole lot to say here other than the Dolphins played the Colts. Colts beat them 16-10 in Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson played this game. He was healthy enough to play, and as a football fan, I fucking hate seeing that. He's not good. He's not good at football. He's a good running back.
He's big. He's strong. He's fast. That's what I can say about him.
No, Joe Flacco is bad for the league.
Oh, I agree. I hope he never retires. The Dolphins have been the first cross off of my little card pretty much every week since they lost Tua, so I really haven't been watching them. But today I was playing Tyreek Hill in our league, so I was at least keeping up with the box score. Is he okay? What's going on?
Probably not.
I realized Tua's not there, but Jonnu Smith is going off for 100 yards and stuff. I'm really confused by that. I hope the cops didn't shake him up too bad. Tyreek.
I want to read you a stat that I thought was interesting about this game. In catch percentage, catchable passes, bottom 5, Calvin Ridley, Cortland Sutton, Dontavian Wicks, Rashid Shaheed, Gabe Davis. Top 5 catchable balls, Jaden Waddle, at an astounding 90% of the passes that he's received are catchable. Jaden Reed, 88, Rashee Rice, Jamar Chase, Chris Godwin.
That's so interesting that the Packers and the Dolphins. The Packers and I thought there was one other team there that they had a representative from each side. You had Wicks on the bad end and then Reed on the good end. Ugh. Well, with Ridley, that makes sense. For sure.
Dolphins. So much talent wasted. It sucks for Waddle.
Yeah.
And Hill. But anyways, that's pretty much all I had. Colts. Whatever. They're 4-3 now, actually.
They're 4-3.
Yeah. So they're not too far behind from the Texans. All it takes is a couple losses. Right. I think the Texans are 5-2 now.
Yeah. But the Colts feel very fraudulent.
Yeah, I get the feeling too. Well, we got another doubleheader tomorrow, which is kind of annoying, but we also get Manning. I don't know which game, but I hope it's the Ravens and Bucks. I think the Bucks are gonna make a close, heated effort to win, but I think the Ravens will inevitably win. And then I think the Cardinals are fraudulent, and I could see the Chargers blowing them out.
That's exactly what I was thinking on both games. But I'm more confident in the Chargers blowing out the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think they have the defense to hold the score at low and make it like a 20-3 game, something like that.
Yeah, and the Cardinals feel like the kind of team that Harbaugh would lick his lips over in terms of like scheming for. I would imagine that he's going to have like a spy for
Mhm.
some level or third downs or something.
He's going to cook
But yeah,
something up. You know he's in the lab right
yeah,
now thinking of how he's going to contain
yeah,
uh, Kyler and then say something really fucking weird at some point, like he always
yeah.
does.
But then later after that, say something weirdly profound that feels just surprising, but also kind of smart,
Yeah.
but also still weird.
All right, man. That's it. Let's get over to our corners, dude. Let's
Why
over to
don't you
your
go first
corner.
this time? Oh, you okay? You want to go?
Me,
I always go first.
me first.
Well, I
Okay.
guess you have the more interesting life, so that does make sense. No, you go.
Okay. Mine's about Fenrir. Um, so Fenrir, he just a couple days ago, he and I were going on a little walk, our daily walk, and he was being kind of weird, because we have like this routine where when I give him a particular command, if I tell him to sit, he'll sit. Whenever he sees like an intersection, we time it so that he sits, and we make sure we sit before we cross the street, or we make sure he sits before he's done sniffing. Like if he's at a tree, he's like sniffing around or whatever. I let him sniff as long as he wants, and then whenever he's done, he gets in this routine where he walks over to me, like next to my feet, and then he sits and then he waits patiently for his treat or when it's time to start walking again. Well, this walk,
Such a
he
good
was
boy.
being really weird. Like he was like it started right away. Like when he started sniffing, and then he would when he would be done sniffing, he would walk over to next to my feet and then give like a half sit, but then stand up again, and he's wagging his tail. I'm like, what are you doing? Sit. And then he'd do it again. He'd give a little sit and then stand back up. And he started doing like this weird sit and stand dance. And he did that the whole walk. And I was like, that's strange. Like eventually I would get him to sit, but after a few attempts. Okay, so the walk ends, and I thought that was really strange behavior. He hadn't done that before. Um, the walk ends, and I noticed when it's time for him to eat the following day, he sits in his crate, and he also, for some reason, just didn't want to sit. So now I'm starting to think like, is there something wrong with him? Like maybe his leg is bothering him. And I I actually get him. There's a point where he's laying on the couch. I like kind of massage him, and he yelps in pain a little bit.
Oh no.
So I'm like, oh shit, what happened, dude? And I'm trying to like replay the history of what could have happened. I don't remember there ever being any collisions or him falling awkwardly, even though he falls often. So I take him to the vet, and the vet doesn't find anything wrong with him. And it turns out, uh, the vet said Fenrir is a very emotional dog, and they have seen dogs fake injuries, and they think this is a good candidate for that because I don't give Fenrir a whole lot of attention day to day, and I think he's pissed that I haven't been giving him as much attention. So the storyline with this story is that the vet
Damn,
thinks
this
he's
is a sad
faking
one.
an injury
That's devastating.
because they couldn't find anything wrong with him.
Oh man, I have heard of that too, actually.
You have a dog's faking injuries?
Just in like my various Googles on my dog. She hasn't done the same thing, but oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Poor Fenrir.
I know he's pouting right now because I'm not in the living room with him, but I'm sure he's gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. Or it'll all work out, I think.
Yeah, give him some butt rubs or something. Well, I'm glad you checked it out. You're a good dad.
I try, man. All right, what's going on in your corner?
Okay, so mine, I chose to just talk about my weekend pretty much. Nothing too special, but we've
What
been
do you mean,
talking
man? We're
about
having this podcast. This is special.
right. Well, usually I'm used to doing it on Monday, so in my head it's Monday. But me and Jamie had been talking about going to a cider mill since we knew we were moving here in Michigan, because Michigan has like really good apples apparently.
What's a cider mill?
So I can't even tell you like the exact definition. My understanding is it's like a plant where they extract apple cider from apples. So, and I don't even know what the technical definition is that distinguishes cider from juice. And we're obviously not talking about like hard cider here. Or I guess that's not obvious, but that's what I'm talking about. Is just like apple cider fresh from the fruit. So at this cider mill, we got to witness like their process of layering and extracting the actual juice from the apples, which was really cool. So they do like 7 layers of like these crushed apples, and they're like different kinds of apples too, which is interesting. It's not just one species or whatever.
Yeah.
And they have like these cloths that go on them, and then they have their big old machine where it squeezes all of it, and then you see the juice come pouring out on the sides, and then you see it go through the tube, and then on the other side of the plant, you get to see them like bottle it up immediately. So it's kind of cool. And we did buy like a little half gallon.
Nice.
Yeah. So she had been wanting to go to try the cider, which was really good. I didn't realize it was that tasty. And it is basically just apple juice, right? But it's like super fresh, and it does make a difference. But I was really excited.
Right now.
It was delicious. Yeah, I recommend it. And I didn't know Michigan was a big apple producer, so that makes sense. But I was more excited for the apple cider donuts, which I've always been a big fan of. Yeah, I used to be a big donut guy in college, actually, which is not a good thing. But yeah, I got to indulge a little bit. So I had 3 of them, and they were, oh my god, some of the best like pastries I've ever had. If they qualify as a pastry, I'm not sure, because they're like super doughy and chewy, right, as donuts should be. But then on the outside, they're like super crispy and crunchy. So it was a perfect balance, and then also not aggressively sweet, which is good. But you taste the apple and like the small hint of cinnamon. So yeah, highly recommend if you're ever in a apple producing state. I think some other big ones are Washington, and then like some of the Northeast states. So yeah, that was a fun
Washington,
time.
huh?
I think so, if I remember correctly. They had some stats and figures at the cider mill on like some of the main producers for our country.
Cool.
Yeah,
You make me want to have an apple right now, and I ate my last apple today. So, damn it.
go buy some.
It's too
Yeah, there's
late.
so
Dude.
many
AJB closes
different
at 11 now.
That's true. Yeah, or like post COVID, it feels like there's nothing open late anymore, which kind of sucks.
It's never been the same.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking me to your apple corner.
For sure.
It gave me some fun visualizing, and I'm salivating now. So I think I'm gonna go snack.
Please do. I love a midnight snack. Or I guess it's not midnight for you, but
Pretty close, but
give Fenrir my regards. Tell him I'm sorry.
I'll give him a few butt scratches for you.
Thanks.
No, thank you. How thoughtful of you.
You're right.
All right, man. Good stuff today. I enjoyed it thoroughly, even on a Sunday night. And audience, thanks for listening. And we'll see you next week. Maybe most likely Monday.
Yeah. Peace.
Deuces. Ciao.